Hey everyone, it's Shay Ortiz, and instead of talking at you at the camera, I decided to just record myself for today. Of course, as soon as I decided to start recording, she decided to have a blowout, so I just went ahead and addressed that. But besides that, I gave birth to my daughter about 5 months ago. She's almost 5 months, and she's doing really well. Postpartum, postpartum was hell. But I'm just gonna talk about my birth experience and what it was like to give unmedicated birth. I want to differentiate the difference between unmedicated and natural. Um, I'm really, really weary of using that word natural because it sounds like an accusation. Like, if you don't have a natural birth, your birth's not good enough. Like, oh, you had medicated. Oh, you had an epidural. Well, I had natural birth. And I don't like that. I don't like that idea. So I decided that unmedicated was the way and the word to use. Because the best way to get the baby here is safely, and however you do that is how it gets done. Ultimately, the best birth plan is flexibility. So that's was my mindset. Of course, I had my wish list and I had what I wanted and my optimal and my goals and what I really wanted for myself as a first time mom and my birthing experience, just because I've seen and heard so many horror stories and there's so much documentation out there about things that can go wrong. Um, and being a woman of color as well, I decided that I wanted to do natural birth for myself. So, my number one piece of advice is to definitely know why you want to have unmedicated birth. If you don't know your why, you're going to be struggling. You can't just be doing it in act of protest. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think that's healthy. Knowing your why is going to probably be the best way to help you. So I did it for ancestry. Millions of women before me have done it unmedicated. Um, and so that was why I decided and knew that unmedicated birth was the best option for me. Of course, I was very fortunate. My birth had no complications, but of course, if you have complications, you do what your medical team is advising. That's why they're there. They're there to, they should be there to support you. I spent 2 to 3 years mentally preparing to give birth. I prepared by studying as a doula, actually. So I studied the same books that doulas do, and I registered with Madriella Doula, and I trained with them. And that was in about 2020, I think it was. So now it's 2024. So I think that lines about up. But I always studied those books and I kept up with them, and that pushed me into the world of YouTube a little bit more in depth. Obviously, you're watching this video, so maybe you want to know some of what that's like. Um, there was a big thing about hypnobirthing that worked for me up to a point, but I don't regret studying it at all. So one of the audiobooks that I got was Mindful Hypnobirthing, and I listened to that book all the way through twice. That book was amazing, and it was actually recommended by my midwives. It was fantastic. They recommended so many books, but I had a limited amount of time. So I guess that brings me to birth education. I'm glad I did my education well ahead of time of my planned pregnancy because, oh girl, we did not have time to go to those birthing classes as a couple. I didn't realize that I need to go register for birthing classes as soon as I found out I was pregnant. I did not know that. So by the time I was 5 and 6 months, all the birthing classes were full and had no space. So me and my husband, we just went to work because we needed the money and we couldn't really prioritize trying to go to one of these birthing classes that was online. That didn't really make a lot of sense and didn't seem to make sense for us, especially since what they were going to tell me online I already knew. We didn't have a chance to do Lamaze. I didn't have a chance to do pregnancy yoga. There was so much I ideally wanted, but I couldn't. I really wanted to hire a doula as well, but I had no money. I didn't have money to even pay a doula post birth. I just, overall, my birth experience was 95% of what I wanted. But I just feel like having that extra person would have really helped me, especially postpartum. And my husband, as loving and attentive as he is, damn. Um, but anyway, birth education. I'm glad I did it well ahead of time and armed myself because, to be forewarned, was the best way to make it through my birth calmly and as proudly as I did. So once I was able to conceive and we were successfully pregnant, then pretty much it was just me trying to work as much as possible. I worked like 90 hours a week, pretty much, um, because I worked in a group home. So it was relatively easy to do. I wasn't standing all day. While it was work and it was relatively difficult, I just did what I had to do because I'm a real person and I'm not getting paid to make these YouTube videos yet or at all. So that's just real life. I wanted to also, I guess, kind of give the pace of what it was like. So at 36 weeks, where I live here in New Jersey, you're allowed to go out on maternity leave. So that's what I did. I had so many ideas about, oh, I'm going to be out on leave till last minute, till 40 weeks. That is not how it went. By the time I got to 34 weeks, I was having contractions at work, and that was not pleasant. So at 36 weeks, the first chance I got, I did take my maternity leave. And I'm glad I did because I was in prodromal labor for 3 weeks. Prodromal labor is the pre labor. And for those 3 weeks, I had contractions many hours of the day, sometimes only 6 hours, but as time progressed, it would be 15 and 20 hours of the day divided up of just having contractions on my couch or in my bed. I do have some mini vlogs on that about being overdue, but I only made the vlogs when I was day 1 through 5 of being overdue. To that end, I did not really stay faithful to the primrose oil. I tried, but I was just so forgetful. I couldn't even remember my prenatals all the damn time. My dog made it really hard to focus and concentrate, so majority of the time I kept her out of the bedroom while I tried to labor in peace or listen to my meditations, which really did help and helped me keep focused because eventually I was reciting the meditation with the meditation video on YouTube, like just with my wireless headbuds. Oh, that's one thing I recommend. Definitely get wireless earbuds. Um, those are a lifesaver. When I was at home, I just tried my best to just let the contractions happen and happen naturally. So I actually really devoted and committed to unpotty training myself. So at some point in the 9 months, I just wore diapers all the time. And when a contraction would hit or contraction spell would hit, I would just start laboring, just get in the position that was most comfortable and just let my body be open. And just letting your body be open will help to make everything run smoother. Um, I was not embarrassed to be doing that because by the time the birth happened, I was just ready to just let everything out. And, it's like rubbing. Imagine if you rolled a coconut on a tube of toothpaste, like you were just, it's going to happen, right? So I just accepted the reality of it and I wasn't in denial at all. So while getting closer to my due date, that was a majority of my life, just constantly changing my pull up, um, really just trying to breathe through as many and as intensely as I could, be calm and intense at the same time. So what do I mean by intense? I mean intentional, planned. Um, the counting that you're going to hear on YouTube really does work. So some of these like coaching meditations, they tell you to breathe in for a 10-second cycle. So breathe in for 6 seconds, breathe out for 4, breathe in for 4, breathe out for 6. I recommend that you make your own. If you have to take it to 12 seconds, that's what you need to be doing. Breathe in for 8, breathe out for 4. Take that time to really breathe through those contractions because that's a pattern that you're going to need even in the hard labor. I actually replaced my numbers with words. So, words that were easy and calming to say. I don't recommend you say like potatoes, carrots, kumquats, but definitely doing your counting will help you make it through. At some point, my contractions would get so intense, I had to add another variable. So I would just start rolling my neck back and forth, like from ear to shoulder, just to add that extra variable while I counted to make it through the contraction. Another thing that I used was the laboring comb method. I think that worked up to a certain point. It did work at home and it did work in the birthing suite up until a certain point. Like after about 7, 8 centimeters, it was over for those stupid ass combs, but it worked and it got me to where I needed to be so as to where my body would just do the rest. So I really did like that method. But training as a doula and studying as a doula really did help me take ownership and reclaim my rights in birth, if that makes any sense, because I knew I was calling the shots and I knew that I was in charge. There are so many instances I see or hear, woman goes into labor or she thinks that she's in labor and then the contractions are slowing down because her body's not ready, and then the doctors and nurses are like, okay, your contractions are slowing down, let's give you pitocin to speed them back up. No, 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 that is not what I wanted. So I just let my body go into labor as naturally and unmedicated as possible. I was not against a narcotic, actually. It was my intention that if my contractions were too intense or too painful, but I wasn't dilated, that I would take a narcotic. Maybe they'd send me home, and but I wasn't against it. But again, flexibility is the best birth plan, and that's what I went in with. And I said that during my appointments with my midwives, and I said that even during labor, between contractions. So that really did help me just surrender into the birthing process, knowing that I've done all I can at this point. Birth is birth. Birth is birthing. Birth is happening. Um, and as much as I would have loved to continue listening to those meditations all the way through my birth, at 8 centimeters, I gave those earbuds back to my husband and I was like, you need to take these. Because at that point, all I could do was listen and hang on to the words of my midwives and everything they were telling me. My midwife experience was fantastic. I met every single midwife at the practice. My midwife family is married to a hospital, so they're all hospital employees, but the midwives do their own thing, and they have a birthing center that is attached to a hospital. So that is really, it's a nice, totally different, calming environment. So by the time I got to my birth, I knew whoever I was going to get, I already met them before. So at that point, it's 4 a.m. The contractions are so intense. They told me to wait till my contractions were 1 minute long and 3 minutes apart. I waited until they were 3 minutes long and 1 minute apart. And then I called in and let them know that, I'm coming in. I woke up my husband. The dog tried to help. He went and, of course, we just got in the car and I labored in the back seat while he drove me there. I got there at about, what was it, about 4 a.m. And I labored on the birth ball for about 3 hours, not really knowing how much time was going by, but he went to sleep. Meanwhile, I'm laboring. I have my combs. I have my meditations. I'm breathing it through. I'm good. Like this is good. So at about 7 a.m., I start hollering like, okay, like it's getting way more painful than I had planned, but I would always return to my breathing after vocalizing. So then they put me in the water bath, and that was a fantastic 20 minutes because after that, I started bearing down, and the midwife checked me, and she's like, oh, well, you're I was 8 centimeters. So I was shocked by that because when I arrived at 4 a.m., I was 4 centimeters. So I was just so happy. I was just like, what did you say? She's like, yeah, you're 8 centimeters. And I was just so happy. I started smiling. The intern was laughing with me. And then, of course, a contraction hit. So the laughter was gone after that. But because I was bearing down, they needed to check me. And they knew I was bearing down because I was, of course, pooping in the water. So then I got out of the tub to, what did I get out? I think they needed to, I forget why I needed to get out of the tub. But you know what? I needed to. They told me I had to, so I did. Oh no, it was to pop my water. They said, we can pop your water for you since it hasn't broken yet. I said, okay. And I just want to get out of the water to pop it but I don't think I'm going to make it back into this bathtub if I'm going to be honest. And we all agreed. So I stand up and then the contractions come roaring in. At that moment that I get out of the bathtub, there's a shift change and my midwife switches. So again, I know all the staff. So that actually didn't bother me. It didn't impede my progress. It didn't scare me. But I could understand how if there was a shift change in the middle of your labor, one might be scared and terrified, and I actually was very comfortable with that change. It didn't bother me at all. So there was an inflatable chair at that point. Again, it's like probably closer to the 7:30 8 a.m. mark. There's an inflatable chair. I sit on the inflatable chair. I'm laboring. My midwife's talking me through it. I'm breathing. My husband's doing all the things that the midwife is telling him to do, which is fantastic. The midwife really knew. Of course, that's what they do, birth. But she really knew how to coach the spouse and partner on what to be doing. So between my ice chips and the cold rag that they put in the freezer for a few minutes, put that on my head. That really did help. There was one terrible moment where a separate nurse came in to take blood, and in the middle of my contraction, she touched my arm, and that made my pain skyrocket. Tears of red hot fear were pouring down my face, and I was screaming uncontrollably. And when I calmed down through the contraction, my midwife talking me through it, that's the only voice I could hear was her voice. And I looked at the nurse who tried to stick me with the needle, and I said, "I'm sorry, I swung at you." And she very quickly took her blood and left the room, right? So at this point, I need a position change because I know that chair, even looking at that inflatable chair, I knew it was going to be painful. So we moved then to the toilet. So we went to the bathroom, and the toilet actually did work. I liked the toilet a lot better. It let my knees be higher. And my husband just stood in front of me, and I leaned on him and breathed through. At some point, the contractions got so intense. Again, I did ask for another position change. I wanted to be in the shower. At this point, my midwife's like, "Okay, great. We're going to get ready to put you in the shower," because I just wanted the hot water on my back. Oh, by the way, in the birthing suite, I had my own bathroom that I didn't have to share. But she says, "I need to get you on the bed so I can check you." And I said, "Okay." By the time we get on the bed, ciao, I was 10 centimeters, and she's like, "Okay, there's a lip on your cervix. You are fully dilated. I just need to move the lip." And I said, "No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. No." And then she's like, "Okay, here it comes." So as the contraction happened, she moved the lip of my cervix out of the way, and then I was fully, crowned. At that point, I am laying on my side on the bed. There were actually a few versions of this where I had my knee up and down. There was a peanut ball involved. There were various stages of pain trying to get the right position while laying on this bed. Oddly enough, it was not hands and knees that I gave birth in. I was like mostly 70% on my back, but just being slightly on the side really, really did help her calm down and move. My husband held one leg, one of the nurses held another. The midwife just guided me through my breathing and the birth. At some point, I don't know when or how, but an eerie, I guess, an unsettling level of calm washed over me, and I was just completely silent for the rest of the birth. All I did was breathe and push, breathe and push. And bringing my chin to my chest did help. Apparently, something about you might pop some blood vessels in your face or eyes if you do it wrong. So I made sure to bring my chin to my chest. And again, it was just breathing everything through. Something that really did help is she sprayed warm oil on me to help calm the burning of the crowning sensation. The ring of fire was a thing, but that did not hurt nearly as much as I thought it would. Head and shoulders, I don't really know if I felt it at all, but again, you don't feel, well, I didn't feel the birth. I only felt the contractions. The birth, I didn't feel, or it didn't hurt at all. The contractions are what was painful. But to that end, once she sprayed me down, that really did calm the burning. I had trouble focusing at some point, so they gave me some oxygen, and that helped bring the baby's heart rate back up and helped me focus a little better. I was able to pay more attention. and she sprayed my perineum with warm oil or water to tell me where to focus and where to push. So by focusing on that area where she was spraying, that's how I knew where and how to push. Um, Overall, giving birth was a very smooth experience. Like I said, it was 95% of what I wanted. Um, I think that giving birth for the first time and unmedicated, I was very well prepared. And the nursing staff and midwives actually said so. They said I was really prepared, that I was very good and attentive. And I guess that's not a small thing to receive a compliment from, the staff that are helping you, because they see a lot of births. And a lot of women go through varying stages of whatever the birth process might be for them. So I'm grateful that I made it through as positively as I did. I am grateful she did not end up in the NICU. I didn't have any complications, no preeclampsia. Overall, motherhood has been fantastic. I've had no unplanned pregnancies, no miscarriages. Throughout my entire pregnancy, I did not even have morning sickness, no headaches, no sciatica, just, of course, the contractions and pre labor. I did not have any complications during birth, and postpartum recovery was pretty straightforward. The emotional part of postpartum was hell, and I will make a separate video on that. Overall, just giving birth really was an empowering experience. I felt like a superhero. One of the best things I did was study as a doula previous to giving birth, because I knew I wanted to have a baby relatively soon. Focusing on the breathing techniques, the 10 counts, pulling, the breath like a string from your ears down to your feet, things like that. And really focusing on my sister tribe and any advice that they had to offer, good or bad. Postpartum was a little strange. I mean, it was horrible with the emotional part, like I said, but like I would drop my baby off and people are complaining that she doesn't smell like a baby. Okay, well, there's Johnson baby lotion in the diaper bag, but I'm not gonna like just put that on her every day. I got backlash for putting her in daycare from multiple people as well. Um, just people who I thought were my friends weren't my friends, as well, was another one. Um, it's just weird. Like, and people that you're expecting to check up on you don't check up on you. It was a mixture of things, but ultimately, I do have a really good sister tribe. I had great support from my friends, and it as best as they could. With me not knowing what I would need postpartum and not knowing what it would feel like postpartum. So I wish I knew what my body was going to feel like, and I wish that I had planned or asked for more help. I think that really would have helped me, but oh well, I'm here now. So, with that being said, I guess I'll just keep posting. You all really seem to really enjoy the nursery video, so I just made this video like a quick nursery part 2 update, just me going through her clothes. But again, it is Shay, and I love you guys, and until the next one, see ya.